Venezuela does not have enough food to feed its 30 million residents. It also can't guarantee them electricity or medical supplies in its hospitals. It's a country staring down social upheaval, political unrest, and bordering on economic collapse. Multiple states of emergency have been declared. So how did this happen to the country with the largest oil reserves in the world? For years, subsidized oil bought Venezuela's government influence abroad and popular support at home. But collapsing oil revenue in an economy dependent on it has caused civil unrest and calls for the ouster of the unpopular president Nicolas Maduro. Maduro has responded with mostly successful attempts to consolidate his power and squash opposition, nudging Venezuela's democracy towards a dictatorship. Here's the situation. Venezuela's current crisis started long before Maduro with his predecessor, the late President Hugo Chavez. Chavez revolutionized Venezuelan politics with a left-wing ideology called Chavismo and fiery anti-US rhetoric. While in power, Chavez focused all of the country's resources on one thing: producing oil. This meant that almost everything Venezuela consumed besides oil needed to be imported, and Chavez borrowed a lot of foreign money to fund it all. While oil prices were high, it worked. Then, in 2013, the first domino fell. Chavez died. Maduro took over for Chavez, and in 2014, the second domino fell. The price of oil started to crumble. Revenue from oil accounts for 95% of Venezuela's export earnings, and when prices for the commodity began plummeting, Venezuela found itself suddenly short on cash. The government responded by slashing imports like basic groceries and medical supplies to avoid defaulting on its foreign debt. It also started printing money, causing inflation, which has surged into the triple digits without an end in sight. The economic freefall has exacerbated social problems. It's gotten so bad that food shortages have prompted major riots. A coalition opposed to Maduro won a majority in the National Assembly in 2015, but its attempts to remove the president from office have failed. Maduro recently formed a task group called La Constituyente to rewrite the country's constitution. Less than a day later, he had two opposition leaders thrown back in jail, snatched from their homes in a midnight raid at gunpoint. And then there's the July 30th election. All of the opposition candidates boycotted, so the only option was to vote for presumed Maduro allies. The assembly has broad powers, including oversight of every other branch of government. After the election, the U.S. Treasury imposed sanctions on Maduro's personal assets.
All assets of Maduro subject to U.S. jurisdiction are frozen.
The U.S. is Venezuela's largest oil consumer, so wider sanctions would almost certainly be devastating. Now here's the argument. Maduro's critics say that he has botched his presidency so badly he should resign immediately. However, some say the alternative isn't much better. The opposition alliance is still made up of more than a dozen parties with no unified plan to fix the economy and no single leader to do it. Venezuela owes almost $90 billion in foreign debt over the next 10 years, and oil prices aren't likely to hit the previous highs that kept the nation afloat, raising chances that the country could default. For now, citizens are stuck with a failing economy and a leader focused largely on staying in power.